So thank you to everyone who signed up for our Educated Business Partners program. This is a designation you all can use moving forward. You'll also be recognized on the national website, as well as a section on our website and our app that we'll be adding here shortly. We're very thankful of Mary Hawk of Porges, Hamlin, Knowles, and Hawk to be presenting today this class. So with that, Mary, I will let you take it away.
Okay. If anyone can't hear me or cannot see the PowerPoint, just unmute yourselves and tell me. Other than that, let's keep everyone muted just to avoid the interference, but please feel free to unmute and ask any questions that you might have during the presentation. It's not a formal thing, it's a relaxed thing today. So as Scott said, I'm Mary Hawk. I'm with Porges, Hamlin, Knowles, and Hawk. We're a law firm in West Florida, and I concentrate most of my practice on community association law. And we have been members of CAI's West Florida chapter since the beginning of the chapter in the 80s. And we're very active in CAI. We believe in it. I've sat on many committees. I sat on the board for 6 years, and I was president in 2014. Had to look at the plaque over here. And it really is, if you're committed to offering your services to community associations, if you're committed to being an expert in your field for community associations, and then this is the place to be, and especially today in getting that business partner of distinction, educated business partner distinction. And when I took this class a few years ago and got the distinction, CAI National had said, well, we'll have a logo or a badge or a distinction you can put on your email or on your business cards, and they never really came up with that. So Karen here locally, we came up with our own badge. So after you get through with this presentation, you're going to take that 30-minute quiz and you get the distinction. Like Scott says, you'll be named on our website and on the national website as an educated business partner, and you can get that badge from Karen that you can add to your business card, you can add to your email, you can put it on your website, and it gives you that extra layer of expertise for your clients to know about. So the PowerPoint is drafted and given to us by CAI National. So I didn't write it, so don't shoot the messenger. It's a good PowerPoint. It's going to cover a lot of things, so we'll jump right into it. The first thing I do want to say is a lot of people will join CAI and think, okay, great, I've joined CAI, the clients are going to come knocking on my door. And that's not true. You have to really work within CAI, and you doing things like you are today, and we'll talk about at the end, really participating in CAI. That's where you're going to make those contacts. That's where you're going to do the networking, and that's where your clients are going to come from if you put the work in. Great. So let's see. All right. Target audience for this particular class is all current and potential CAI business partners. They run through a little agenda, what we're going to talk about today, the introduction to community association industry. And by the way, the test is drawn exclusively from this PowerPoint. So, you know, take notes along the way if you need to. The test isn't that hard, but it is drawn straight from this PowerPoint. Then we're going to do an introduction to CAI, what it means to specialize in community associations, some of the ethical concerns, some insurance and risk management issues, what a community association customer expects from a business partner, and some recommendations from successful business partners. Why are business partners important to communities? The homeowner leaders say they advise us as business partners to promote that you are an educated business partner and a member of CAI, treat boards like they are professionals and help guide them to their decision, provide an analysis that summarizes and highlights the features that make you special. Most importantly, tell the board that you have a track record that matters to them and you have helped other communities in similar situations. This is what those board members want to hear from you. from professional managers. They say managers succeed because of their business partners. They need us to excel because we influence the board's decisions, and your managers are usually your major contact, and they do influence the board's decisions. The best thing a business partner can do is understand who the customer is, and build relationships with the managers, and you'll get professionalism, you'll get loyalty out of them, and they'll get value from your services. When there's an opportunity, present your ideas to the manager and to the board. Consistently, professionally advocate for your specific profession. An overview of community association industry. I do recall when I took the test a couple of years ago, some of these numbers are on the test. So maybe take a screenshot or jot down some of these numbers. Nearly 350,000 community associations exist today. 25 to 27% of the US population live in a community association. There are 3,000 to 5,000 new community associations formed each year, and 61% of the new housing built for sale is in a community association. Did you know that over $95 billion of assessments are gathered every year? The value of homes and community associations is $6.28 trillion. 30 to 40% of associations are self-managed. I think that's kind of high. I mean, that's their statistic, but I think in Florida it might be a little lower than that. That seems to be high to me. There are 7,000 to 8,000 management companies in the United States. And is it successful? Well, a recent poll said 87% of unit owners are happy with their community. How did this phenomenon come about of community associations? It started in, actually the first common interest entities appeared in the 1800s. In 1970s, you saw rapid growth because of a tax credit available on condominiums. And then everyone caught on to the idea that we can shift the infrastructure costs from the government to a community association and provide amenities with costs shared by the people who live there. So it's just, you'll see on the graph, it's really boomed since the 70s. They gave us California data, which we don't care about, but so I looked up Florida data. In California, I doubt they're going to ask this on the test, but there's 48,150 community associations in California. As of 2018 in Florida, there were 48,250 community associations in Florida. So we beat California out by 100 communities. In California, there's 13.9 million housing units. In Florida, there are 9.48 million housing units. Here's some more statistics on California. Again, I don't know why they're giving us California, and I doubt they'll ask state-specific questions, but here's their demographics. So what are the demographics of a typical board member in the United States? We'll talk about that in a minute. Why do people live in community associations? It's not sure I totally agree with this either, but they say it's more affordable than other types of housing. In other words, you're trading lower costs with shared amenities, and it's lower than living independently. But this is the biggie. Why do people live in community associations? To protect their assets, to protect their homes, the value of their homes, and to protect their lifestyles. So community association membership helps control the expectations as owners choose to live in with these various restrictions. And this is an interesting question. Is your home really your castle in a community association? And in Florida, we have specific case law, a lot of very specific case law that says, no, your home is no longer really your castle. You can't do whatever you want because it's your home. When you live in a community association, it's shared living, and you do give up some of those rights and privileges of home ownership when you live in these shared communities. But again, the driving goal of community associations is to preserve and protect the property values. And that's where you all come in to help them accomplish that number one goal. So there are various kinds of community associations. A community association in general is a group of residents owning a combination of their own living spaces and some shared amenities. A common interest is something agreed to by those with an individual interest, such as architectural guidelines, and these things are agreed to the minute they become the owner of that home, the minute they get that deed. That's why some of them are called deed restrictions. It's in your deed that you're governed by these restrictions. The characteristics of a community association are mandatory membership. There are still some homeowner associations out there that are voluntary, and that they are strictly voluntary. They aren't governed by the statutes, and they aren't what we're talking about today. So we're talking about mandatory membership associations that have mutually binding documents and lien-based assessments. They're going to assess you for maintenance assessments, and they can lien your property if you don't pay them. So business partners need to be familiar with each type of governing document governing the associations. The first is the recorded map, plat, or plan. And sometimes we don't remember to look at this. Maybe if you're a landscaper or you work in lakes or pond management, you are very concerned and you have looked at the recorded map, plat, or plan, but other business partners should take a look at the recorded plat. The manager should have it for you. It really outlines for you the location of each lot and unit, as well as the exact location of all the common elements. The declaration, also called a master deed, which we don't really use that term in Florida, or some people call it the CC&Rs, covenants, something, and restrictions. Why I can't remember that. We call it a declaration. That's the best thing to call it here in Florida. If it's a co-op, they'll have a proprietary lease, which is or an occupancy agreement, which is their equivalent to the declaration. The declaration provides the legal description of the property and the common elements. It governs use restrictions, what owners may do or not do with their unit or with the real estate. And it provides for the establishment of the community association and the protocol for levying the assessments. So CC&Rs, covenant conditions and restrictions, we call it the declaration, governs the land. It's what we sort of refer to as the Bible. The Articles of Incorporation is just usually a very short document. It's the evidence of the legal status of the entity. You're going to find these on SunBiz in Florida, the Secretary of State's website. Every mandatory association is going to be incorporated, most likely as a not-for-profit, and the Articles of Incorporation is the evidence of that incorporation. It defines basic purposes and powers of the association, and most likely you're not going to have a lot of interaction with the Articles of Incorporation. Next come the bylaws. That establishes the governing regulations for the operation and management of the association, such as the membership, the voting requirements, the powers and duties of the board. So the bylaws govern the corporation. Rules and regulations, they're established policies. They're usually board established by the board, usually not established by unit owner vote. They are supposed to explain the use restrictions, explain the things that are already in your declaration and your bylaws, explain how the lifestyle is going to be facilitated in that association. Establishes policies and procedures and helps shape the behaviors for, living in the close quarters that you live in associations. There's a Florida statute that governs each type of community association in Florida. There's also federal legislation that affects associations that you'll probably want to be familiar with, one being the Fair Housing Act, and that prohibits discrimination in housing, and that does govern community associations. FEMA, the Federal Emergency Management Act. There are guidelines through the federal government on the Fair Housing Act and what you can and cannot do in terms of discrimination. There's some other mortgage and finance related acts. Lawyers for associations are considered debt collectors under the Fair Debt Collection Practices Act, so you need to be familiar with that. And there's also acts and statutes and legislation that govern insurance. So here's the hierarchy, the pyramid of authority over associations. And there's a little caveat to this. The top highest position, of course, is the laws and the statutes. Some of these statutes in Florida will say, here's the law unless your declaration says otherwise, in which case, in some instances, the declaration might prevail over what the law says. It's sort of a case-by-case, section-by-section analysis, so you'll want to make sure you have a legal opinion as to whether the law governs or the declaration governs. But this hierarchy is basically correct. The laws and the statutes, the record, you might want to take a screenshot of this too. I think it may pop up on the test. The recorded map, plat, or plan, the declaration, the articles of incorporation, the bylaws, and the rules. That is the hierarchy of the authority. Okay, what are the differences among the types of communities? HOAs, what we call HOAs, are planned communities, normally single-family homes. Condominiums is, as you can imagine, condominiums. And there's the percentage. HOAs, 54 to 60% of community associations are HOAs. 38 to 42% are condominiums, and only 2 to 4% are cooperatives. In Florida, you're going to find most of the cooperatives are mobile home parks that have transitioned and turned into owner-financed cooperatives. So for a planned community, again, what we call HOAs, the owner owns the lot as well as the home or the unit on the lot. And the community owns common areas such as a clubhouse, a pool, or tennis courts, you know, the basic common areas. Don't be fooled. There are some communities that look like HOAs, but they're actually condos. They might be land condos. So always read the declaration, make sure you know, it's not necessarily a duck if it looks like a duck. Some HOAs look like condos, and some condos look like HOAs. Condominium living, the owner owns the living unit and a percentage of the common elements, which consist of everything except the living units. They list balconies here as common elements, but again, you'll want to make sure you look at the specific documents of an association, because sometimes the lanai or the balcony are included within the boundary of the unit. So you'll want to know what the unit boundaries are. Cooperatives, again, we don't have a whole lot of those in Florida, but if we do, they're going to, at least on this side of Florida, they're going to be typically the mobile home parks that have transitioned into a cooperative. And in that instance, they own a share in the corporation and they hold a 99-year proprietary lease. There's lots of other kinds of community associations. And again, don't judge a community association by its appearance. Look at the governing documents, make sure you know what you're dealing with, whether it's a condo or an HOA. Sometimes townhomes are condos, sometimes townhomes are HOAs. There are horizontal housing regimes, there are condotels, docominiums, we have a few of those in Florida. Hangarminiums, which are for airplane hangars, and I know of a couple of those in this area. There are age-restricted communities that are allowed to be age-restricted under the Housing for Older Persons Act, but they have to meet a lot of restrictions. And there are adult active communities, which, excuse me, may cater to adults who have active lifestyles, but under the Fair Housing Act and the federal laws and the Florida laws, you've got to be careful about how you describe an adult community. If you're actually age restricted, you can advertise 55 and older. You can't advertise as adult only. All right, I'm just going to assume you have no questions. If you have questions, please feel free to unmute and ask them. I'm going to take a cough drop here. Sorry. All right, Community Association Institute overview. CAI is an international center for community association information, best practices, education, and advocacy. And I don't know if all of you realize it is an international organization. In 1964, there was an Urban Land Institute, and it commissioned the first study on community associations. And in 1973, CAI was founded. Today, we have 64 chapters worldwide, including Canada, the Middle East, and South Africa. And they have relationships with housing leaders in number of other countries, including Australia and the United Kingdom. There are more than 41,000 members of CAI, including community managers, management companies, homeowner leaders, those are your board members, on local boards, and business partners with numerous types of professionals and trades. The CAI national staff is in Falls Church, Virginia, and they have 50+ people on staff there. CAI, and this may be on the test too, is governed by a 15-member board of trustees. And there are 3 councils comprised of members from each membership group. So there's a Business Partners Council, there's a Homeowner Leaders Council, and there's a Community Association Managers Council. Pause here if you want to take a screenshot. Okay, business partners include lots of different kinds of services: attorneys, accountants, insurance professionals, reserve providers, bankers, lenders, builders, developers, realtors, software providers, landscapers, roofers, lots more, plumbers. CAI National does have a CAI Business Partner Toolkit and some other information for business partners. And of course, participation in CAI can give you direct access to thousands of potential customers. Here's some of the distinctions and recognitions through CAI. One is what you're doing today, the CAI Educated Business Partner distinction. There's a Community Insurance and Risk Management Specialist distinction, a Reserve Specialist distinction, and managers can be admitted to as a fellow in the College of Community Association Lawyers. Lawyers can be admitted to that. Community managers and management companies are the professional backbone of the communities they serve, providing the skills and expertise that are essential to successful associations. Here's some of the manager qualifications, and I would urge you to be familiar with these, because managers are very proud of their qualifications, as they should be, because they work hard to get some of these distinctions. So really be able to recognize when someone has a PCAM or they've got some of the higher distinctions. And there's a little drawing of the hierarchy of the distinctions. The CMCA is a Certified Manager of Community Associations, and AMS is an Association Management Specialist. A PCAM is the Professional Community Association Manager. An LSM is someone who's received distinction as a large-scale manager. And then the management companies can be accredited to Accredited Association Management Company. All right. So for business partners specializing in community associations, the number one thing is to understand the association's primary objective. And again, that's to protect, maintain, and enhance the assets of the association. Protect the assets. It's a biggie. So to be successful, your service product should be strongly in alignment with this objective. In specializing in community associations, it's important to understand the client. The board serves as the decision-making authority and is ultimately responsible for the association. The manager serves as the agent, the advisor, the gatekeeper. You'll want to have good relationships with both. The boards are volunteers, but a lot of them, especially here in Florida, have expertise in other professions. Either they were in another profession and now they're retired, or some of them are still working in that profession. Expect a board composition to change each year. So if you have really good relationships with the present board and the present president, understand that might change next year. The board rules as a body. Do not expect board members to act individually or to try to sell to them as individuals. 78% of all associations operate on a fiscal year ending in December 31st. You need to understand their budget constraints. They're always trying to stay within budget. Understand their revenue stream. Do they have reserves? What are their assessments? The association's income comes from the mandatory assessments. It's not voluntary dues. That's, as I was saying, it's a difference between a community association and a group or a country club. Most boards operate on a monthly calendar. So if your proposal misses a board meeting, it may not be considered until the next meeting. And in Florida, a lot of times the boards won't meet during the summer. So, get on the agenda early in the year. Be patient. Some complex issues take multiple meetings for them to reach a decision. And the boards don't operate in a vacuum. Their decisions are subject to their own governing documents. There's federal and state and local laws. There's the IRS. There's the desires of the owners. So they have a lot to consider when making decisions. Professional managers range from entry level to very experienced advisors. They typically don't make decisions for the board, but they are advisors and they have a strong relationship with the board, and you need to have a strong relationship with the manager. But the board is going to be the ultimate decision-making authority, and the board is ultimately your customer. Since boards are volunteers and a lot of managers are spread very thinly, as you know, especially the portfolio managers, you can expect response times to vary. You just have to have patience sometimes. If possible, business partners should offer to present their proposal directly to the board and treat the association like the multi-million-dollar real estate entity that it is. The management alternatives for a board, they can be self-managed, which is the volunteer board members basically manage the association. Again, they say 30 to 40% of associations are self-managed. They can have on-site association employees, on-site manager, or they can employ a management company. Oftentimes they'll get a portfolio manager that manages many different associations and not just their association exclusively. I have a few clients that do the hybrid. They're sort of self-managed, but they do hire a management company or an accountant to do the back office financial work for them. Bidding and presentations, the key factors unique to community associations. When you're bidding, you're selling to an association. Develop a strong relationship with your association. Work to become the association's trusted expert in your field. Work to increase the association's knowledge of your resources and skills. And this is when you can be talking to them about roofing or whatever your experience, your expertise is, even when they're not in the market for a roof. make sure they know you're the roof professional, because the minute they are in need of a roof, then they'll know to come to you. Strong relationships can ease dispute resolution and negotiations when there's integrity and trust that's already been established. Knowledge and trust allow for streamlined workflow. Understand why the association is contracting for your service. Sometimes they need a service because they don't have the staffing to do it, or sometimes they want to decrease the cost of their existing service. Understand the barriers to contracting with the association and the resistance to change. This is a biggie. If you've been selling to community associations for a while, you'll know some of them, they do get their favorite roofer and they're just not going to part with that roofer. So breaking up the status quo, inch your way in, try to be their new expert. Changing their relationships is complicated. They don't want to feel like they're losing the control or they're surrendering their identity. New service may not yield cost savings. That's where you have to make sure they understand it. You may not be a cost saving, but you're more of an expert in your field. Understand the bidding process. Sealed bids are opened at a board meeting. When are they unsealed? Who unseals them? Will you have the opportunity to present your bid to the board or to a committee? A lot of times when they're looking for a service, they'll form a committee and you'll need to speak to them first. Understand who the decision maker is. Can the community association manager make this decision, or is it the board, or is it the committee that makes that recommendation? Proposals are expected to be offered at no cost, but watch for being shopped. And make sure the contract includes all the components in the scope requested. So really pay attention to the request for proposal. Provide an analysis of purpose, process, and implementation of your service. Establish a performance standard that provides accountability and communication. All right, part 4, ethics. Gratuities, commissions, and finder's fees. Don't do it. Next slide. Disclosure requirements vary from state to state, and they apply to all managers. Ethical standards are also included in CAI's Professional Manager Codes of Ethics. What is acceptable so you don't compromise your integrity or your customer's integrity. Gifts, lunches, services, movie tickets, and concert tickets. What is reasonable? Also in Florida, what is legal? There is a statute governing what managers can accept, and basically they're only going to accept things at a trade show or at an educational event, and only up to $25. What about providing services for a manager or a board member's house? Not a wise decision to commingle like that often. Your reputation for integrity is the most important asset of your company. Knowing what's right is simple. Is what's being done in the best interest of the association? That's the question you need to answer as yes. It should not be whether it's in the manager's best interest, or whether it's in an individual board member's best interest, or whether it's in your self-interest, but what's being done is in the best interest of the association. This is a good one. Presume that everything that happens will be made public and proceed accordingly. There are very few secrets sometimes in community associations. And nothing you do should be considered an act designed to influence business decisions. What happens when it all goes wrong? Does it really stay in Vegas if it happens in Vegas? No. The best advice you could follow is be above board and admit your mistakes. If something goes wrong, if you made a mistake, admit it immediately and fix it. And don't try to sweep it under the rug. Insurance and risk management. The board of directors is really the risk manager for the association. Its, again, primary duty is to protect the community association's assets. But they're going to look to you, to us business partners, as the professionals and the experts, and the statutes and their governing documents probably require them to look to the professionals and the experts. They're authorized to use professionals to evaluate, to meet their duties. A lot of times they need to go ask professionals. Again, the failure to use a professional or an expert could in and of itself be a breach of their duty. And this is the CYA portion. Document the advice and recommendations that you give to the board, because if they don't take it, you'll have a record of what you advised them to do. There are no governing documents or regulations that require the board to save the association money, which is often the board's reason for not retaining an expert. We get that a lot as attorneys. They don't want to come to us for a 15-minute consultation because they don't want to pay us. But then later, when they get into trouble about that decision that they made without our advice, it'll cost them 10 times more. And also, the boards need to understand that when they come to you as an expert, they are limiting their own liability, because they can then rely upon you as the expert. Well, our lawyer told us to do it, or well, our roofer told us that this is what we needed to do. So they are decreasing their liability by relying on you. What is a reserve study? Reserve studies help the board successfully anticipate and prepare for the future. Reserve studies identify the current condition of the major assets of the association, and they calculate how much the board needs to budget to offset the ongoing cost of normal deterioration. The reserve study is the blueprint of the association's physical assets and can serve as a counterweight when comparing bids. They can pay as you go, meaning they actually collect reserves on an ongoing basis, so when they need to do that project, they have the money. Or there are some associations where the owners have voted to waive reserves, and so they don't have the money. When they need to do the project, they make a special assessment against the owners. Insurance, use insurance professionals. It's imperative that a board use an insurance professional who has the proper experience and training in community association insurance. Here are the primary types of insurance: property insurance, general liability. Directors and officers is very important. Fidelity insurance for dishonesty. Workers' comp if they have employees. Ask if they have an umbrella policy. And a new type of policy that everyone should have is cyber and data breach insurance. So the association having insurance is a way to transfer risk. They might have others as an additional insured or as a certificate holder on their insurance. There may be indemnification provisions in their documents, or they may have a special event and go and get special event insurance. And you'll need to know where your business partner's insurance policy comes into play. Is your insurance an asset that you're going to market about your company? It's very important that the business partner insurance is primary and no work is done for which you are not insured. In addition to being fantastic at what you do, what other responsibilities do business partners have? Of course, you may need correct permits for certain jobs. Who pays for the permit? Is that included in your bid? Do you need professional licensing? Do you have that professional licensing? Will the boards check your licensing? Yes, they will. And so go right ahead and supply them with copies of all of your licenses, insurance certificates. And you may need to work with a third party for them to be assured that they have verified your licenses. Okay, part 6, customer expectations. We're just speeding through this. Again, if you have any questions or want me to slow down, just let me know. What does your association customer expect? Professionalism. These are multi-million-dollar not-for-profit organizations run by volunteers. A multi-million-dollar meaning they may not have a multi-million-dollar budget or millions of dollars in the bank, but their land and their assets are worth a lot. They're worth a lot to them. And these are not-for-profit organizations run by volunteers. So you're there to help the board make good decisions. Board meetings, come when invited, be concise, be respectful, ask to be on the agenda if you would like to speak with the board or if you'd like to speak to the unit owners. Understand the decision making in community associations. When can the manager decide on something? Again, when is it a committee recommendation or when must the board decide? And this is important and near and dear to my heart. Be involved and show up to events as a volunteer, including CAI events. Write articles, including for our CAI West Florida magazine. And that's not because I'm the editor of the magazine, but it will get you out in front of a lot of potential customers. You're an expert in some field. Write an article, doesn't have to be long. It will be published in our magazine. It reaches a lot of potential customers. It's also posted on our website. You can teach a class. All of the managers have to get lots of hours of continuing education units, and it's not that hard to put together a class. Again, you're an expert in a field. You put together a class. You can teach a class. We're doing we're looking for 1-hour CEU classes right now. CAI can help you put the class together. They can get it approved by the state. I even have a class I teach on how to write a CEU class. So take advantage of all of that. It is free advertising. It takes a little bit of time. They're doing work outside my window. It takes a little bit of time, but it's worth it to volunteer, to write the articles, to teach a class, to do our lunch and learns, to do our breakfast, use the chapter. That way you'll become a known expert to a lot of people.
Hey, Mary.
Yeah.
D. Smith here with Nature's Room. I have a question. You know, we're doing the virtual classes and we're also starting to do the live classes. However, some of us who have approved courses, you know, a lot of people in the beginning were getting them passed through into the system to be able to do them online, but still some of us, as myself, are still waiting 4 months later. I was told, but I want to confirm this. If I'm doing it in a live class setting and I have virtual class also, can that be considered acceptable, or do I still have to wait to get that certification for online that I'm not receiving?
Are you going through CAI?
Going through the DBPR, but I'm just, in general, I mean, should I go? I mean, obviously, you don't want me to do my classes with y'all too, but I'm just asking that question.
If I understand your question, the only classes that I have submitted for approval to be taught online, I've submitted through Karen, through CAI, and she's gotten the approval immediately. So I don't know what, you know, what the lag is for when you're submitting them through DBPR, but I took live classes that I had and we changed just a few things on the first page, and Karen resubmitted it and got the approval for a virtual class. Is that what you're asking?
Yes. So, okay, that's sorry.
So I haven't tried it on my own through the DBPR, but I know Karen got it approved immediately. In fact, I'm teaching the manager all day in a couple of weeks, and that's what we did. We took some live class because we're doing that virtually, and she got them approved to be virtual.
Okay, thank you. Well, that answered my question.
All right, teach those classes.
You got it.
Become part of the community association's world, attend meetings, advocate for the project, answer the homeowner questions. And this is a good one. If you're doing a big project in an association, offer to write little updates that they can put in their newsletter so that people know what's going on and what the status of the project is. So, you know, that helps the manager out a lot. Okay, here's some recommendations from successful business partners. Get on social media, LinkedIn, Facebook. Of course, know to have 2 accounts, one for your friends and personal life and one for your business. Yelp, Home Advisor, Angie's List. Know how to handle negative online reviews. Sponsorship opportunities. Make it an event and not an expense. sponsor the golf tournament, sponsor breakfasts, sponsor CAI, sponsor things that will get your logo out to a lot of people. And of course, as we were saying, speaking opportunities, teaching classes, and a lot of my associations, especially the larger ones, they have, well, pre-pandemic and hopefully post-pandemic, they have coffee hour every Saturday. And there's 50 people at this coffee hour, and you can say, hey, do you need a speaker at your coffee hour? And you go and you speak about your expertise, and you become known to the owners in the home. You become known to the board members. There are a lot of associations that do, you know, coffee hours or lunches. CAI, of course, also sponsors a lot of those too. So get out there, get over any shyness you have. You're the expert. It's easy. Once you start talking about what you know, it's easy, and it's a targeted audience for you. Network with managers, homeowner leaders, start a networking group of your own. Recommendations. Build your brand on your strengths and what you will do well for the association. Build your brand over time. Invest in multiple ways, periodic trade shows, ads in CAI magazines, educational presentations for CAI or local management companies. Some management companies do their own little presentations. Get involved in those. Create CAI luncheons. Be patient. This is what I was saying. You can't just sign up for CAI and expect the clients to be rolling in. It's a process. It takes months or years to really get ensconced in this industry so that people know who you are and know that you're the expert in your field. So put the work in. It's worth it. Stay in your area of strength. You know, don't be the expert in 15 different things. If you're a quality provider, stress your quality. If you're a technology company, stress what is new and better. If you're a service company, stress your customer service. Not every association wants or needs the lowest cost. Be a trusted industry resource. Satisfied customers are your best way to build business because of referrals, and ask for referrals. Maintain your honor and your word. Stay above board. No kickbacks. For those who are tempted to take them, the benefits are short-lived, and don't do them. It will give you a bad reputation. Another side note to this is don't ever play the manager off against the board. Be above board and honest and cooperative with the manager and with the board equally. Don't create conflicts, what I was saying. Never say one thing to the manager and another thing to the board member, or different things to different board members. That's a real important one. And understand revolts happen. Sometimes an entire board is replaced at an election and the new board says, we're not going to use anybody the old board used because we hated the old board. It's not personal. It's usually not personal about you. It's about they're replacing every provider. So, you know, you're going to lose business too when board revolts happen. And they are not-for-profit corporations, so try to be as cost efficient as possible. Align with the community's values, know their needs and their wants, suggest that their money will be well invested when working with you. So stress the high value that you can give them. Make sure your clients look good because they had the wisdom to choose you as their business partner. Now I'm going to bet this is going to be on the test. Help boards manage, achieve their objective to protect, maintain, and enhance the assets of the association. This means helping the association become a peaceful and productive community with maximized home values. You are doing something that matters. So in conclusion, what can I do next? Volunteer. Be involved, participate in events, join a chapter, volunteer, write articles, give presentations, sponsor events, join the Foundation for Community Association Research, or work with your local. Every CAI chapter has a legislative action committee, and we do. So work with them if you want to change legislation. Educated business partners have a competitive advantage. The designation you're going to earn today after you pass the test is the EBP, Educated Business Partner. It tells your potential customers that you better understand your customers and your clients and your need, and that you're a specialist in the community association realm. EBPs have more opportunities to network and participate alongside their customers and clients. EBPs are preferred by community associations, their boards, and their community association managers as being more expert in their professions for community associations. How do you earn the EBP distinction and be listed on the CAI website? And as Scott said, you'll be listed on our website and National's website. You must take this class and pass the Business Partner Essentials exam online, which I would recommend you do right after we finish here, because it's all fresh in your mind. It doesn't even take 30 minutes, and it's really not that tough if you've paid attention through this little presentation. You also have to be a CAI member through your company's business. And here are the instructions for accessing the exam online. They were also sent by Karen a couple of days ago with links that you can go to. Basically, your login is your email address. Your password is generally your last name in all lowercase. And then under the name of the class, click on the course Business Partner Essentials, and under that you'll see a launch button which launches the exam. Good luck. So anybody have any questions? Anyone have any questions about the exam? If you do, unmute yourself.
And if anyone has any trouble logging in to the instructions, just reach out to me. We have a contact at National who's been helping us out this morning to a handful of people who had some trouble, and we can get you squared away. So like Mary said, take it as soon as possible while the information is fresh on your mind.
All right. There's no questions. We'll wrap it up so you guys can go take the test, and then get with Scott or someone at the local office to get your badge once you pass the test, so you can put that on your email and on your business card or whatnot. All right, good luck.
Thanks, Mary.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mary.
Good to see you all.
Thank you, Scotty and Mary.
You're welcome. All right, I'm gonna leave. Take care.